What's up, everybody? Rothstein here, Betting Public Sports Show. I'm your beloved host, Fame Rothstein, a.k.a. Michael Snackson, a.k.a. Bay O Wolf, a.k.a. Malcolm Excellence, a.k.a. Hacksaw Jim Thuggin. Today's Thursday, April 4th, 2024. It's about 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, I gave you some action earlier today. You got to check the earlier video. The big one of the day is hitting right now, okay? We had Cleveland. Right now it's hitting. Anything can still happen, but as of right now, it's hitting. We took Cleveland on the money line. Cleveland Guardians on the money line at Minnesota, plus 130. They're up 4-1 in the bottom of the seventh. All right? Now, granted, yes, the Twins have 9 outs to work with, but you know, I told you that kid, Bibby, that was an aberration that first start where he got rocked, you know, gave up, but, you know, came into the game with like a 7-something ERA, 2.75 whip. I told you that was an aberration. But none of that. I ain't here to talk about sports investing right now. I'm here to talk a little slick, a little greasy. Couple things I saw percolating on social media. You know, past weeks, days, hours. First off, Emmanuel Acho, the guy from Fox Sports 1, kind of elbowed, what's my man's name? Marcellus Wallace up out of his spot. Yeah, he said some slick shit about Angel Reese. It's like, bruh. See, especially at a time right now, Emmanuel Acho, if you don't know, he's not an African American. He's an African in America. I guess he's from he's got direct. He might have been born in America, but I guess his people, you know, his parents are from Nigeria or somewhere over in Africa and whatnot. And that's always going to be a bad mix when you, Emmanuel Acho, talking about Black Americans. Like, you just, like, you know, shout out to Tariq Nasheed. You know what I'm saying? Like, that tether shit, like, we just ain't fucking with y'all like that right now. Appreciate the perspective, but, like, you know, stay out of that. Even if you're right or wrong. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not necessarily that you were wrong in what you said about her. It was like, you know, y'all's perspective on Black Americans, we don't fuck with. We could care less hearing about it. You know what I'm saying? You Caribbeans, you Africans, you know, we could care less about it. So, like, what you saying, like, bruh, like, we just not feeling you. You know, from my understanding, they made you walk it back. I seen another video. I didn't hear it. I didn't listen to it because I just didn't care. It's like, I just don't really rock with Acho like that. You know, no personal disrespect to him. It's just his takes. Just I don't care to hear him. All right. Also, let me holler at my brother Kwame Brown. Now, I fuck with Kwame Brown. Kwame Brown, Kwame, however he likes to say it, I'm sorry. I fuck with dude. You know, up until the Shannon Sharp and Cat Williams interview, Kwame Brown probably had the best 2-3 days in social media, you know, YouTube, you know, broadcasting, podcasting history. You know, he came back stomping in his big black boots, letting motherfuckers, you know, what's that shit? You know, how could I be a bust? I put my mama on a golf course at 19 years old, but that was a genius fucking flip. Genius flip. You know what I'm saying? Because as you know, he was the #1 draft pick of the, I guess the Washington Wizards at the time, you know, Jordan. And Kwame, you know, I mean, he played 12 years in the league, 12, 13 years in the league, but his career numbers, 6 rebounds, 6 points a game. I mean, that's just not what you would expect drafting somebody #1 overall for those type of numbers. I mean, I've always said for years that Kenyon Martin played hoop here in the Republic of Cincinnati, played his college hoop here. We watched him grow up in real time. He got there as a project. all he could pretty much do was block dunks from the backside and catch dunks, or block shots from the backside and catch dunks when he got here. But by the time he left, he had a wet ass jumper, taking cats off the dribble, still dunking, all that shit. Now he's blocking people face to. Kenyon was when he left, he was a beast. He broke his leg and was still the number one pick. Broke his leg in March and was still the number one pick in like May or June. You know what I'm saying? Even Seth Greenberg on ESPN, he said that one time. He said, Kenyon might have been the end of his career in the NBA or even out of the league at the time. Seth Greenberg was like, because he played at South Florida. They were in the conference with Cincinnati. He said, as a sophomore, we didn't guard Kenyon Martin. But as a senior, woo-wah-woo. But that ought to tell you how, Kenyon Martin might be the last person to develop their game in college. But I digress, because I've always said that he was the Mendoza line, the barometer stick of number one picks. If your career was better than Kenyon's, you deserve to be the number one pick. If it was not better than Kenyon's, you didn't deserve to be the number one pick. I didn't hoop. So I can't, according to Kwame Brown, I can't say he wasn't good or nothing like that. But I will say this, compared to the players of your era and, your size, your position, you weren't very good. And he calls himself the Busty Bust and whatnot. And, maybe he's accepting, that, but he still doesn't like it. But his whole thing with Stephen A. Smith, it's like, bruh, like, let that go at this point. Yeah, he gave a famous rant on you. You know what I'm saying? You came back on him, you be shitting on him. You came back on him and said your piece about him. Whatever's going on with, you even went on Jason Whitlock a couple times just because Jason Whitlock doesn't like him. But, you don't like Jason Whitlock either, Kwame Brown. You don't. Because he does the same shit that you don't like. And all constantly dissing black men, which is what Whitlock does. Things like that. But yeah, Kwame, I fuck with him. I fuck with his podcast because, during that famous 2-3 days that he had, it lasted for a little longer than that. But like, dude got like mad followers after like 2-3 days. He was, he was talking about cats like Barnes and Steven Jackson, like, them cats. Like, he had a great couple 3 days and shit. But I but it's like the stuff with Stephen A. It's like it needs to stop. It's like seems like every week you're dropping some video dissing Stephen A. Smith, or if you miss a week, you'll get him 2 times the next week. And it's like, bro, you ain't got to keep doing that. Because if we're being honest, more kids can realistically aspire to be Stephen A. Smith than they can you. You're 6'11", 7 feet tall. You're taller than 95, 98% of the world. To become you, a person got to win the genetic lottery. To be Stephen A. Smith, all they got to do is pay attention in school. Because like I've always said about here, you'll never hear me diss Stephen A. Smith because I know a little bit about the profession he's in, broadcasting and journalism. And as far as broadcasters and journalism go in my lifetime, being a near 50-year-old man, Stephen A. Smith's either 1 or 2. Like I said, there's a bunch of guys who are really good. Dan Patrick, Rich Eisen, Fred Hickman, Keith Olbermann, a lot of those Sports Center guys. Neil Everett, Kilborn was good. But as far as the people, sports national, George Michael, the sports machine, but as far as the people that really that you'll remember, Howard Cosell. Remember Howard Cosell? Everybody tries to imitate him. When I was a kid, everybody tried to imitate Howard Cosell. You know what I'm saying? He's the reason why there is ESPN, because of what he was doing on Wide World of Sports. Chris Berman. When I was a kid, when I was in high school, all we did was come up with Chris Berman nicknames. Oh, did you hear what he said about Chuck Knobloch? Bert Blyleven and all them, we try to come up with our own about, people we knew and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Stuart Scott, obviously, he changed the game for a lot of aspiring black TV folk. And Steven, he's basically a black Howard Cosell. That urban sesquipedalian shit he does, that takes talent. That takes work. That takes preparation. To be flowing like that with that vocabulary, to flow the way he does. You know what I'm saying? So, I would like to see Kwame Brown kind of mend the fence with him if you have to do it off camera, and then bring it on camera somehow. And just, because more, like I said, more kids can be him than you. You're more of an outlier. Being, 7 feet tall or however tall you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, seriously, you got to win the genetic lottery to become you. But more kids can aspire to be Stephen A. Smith, regardless of how he talks about who you say he talks about, always dissing black men. But you go on the Whitlock show. That's all I'm saying. Because I fuck with you. I like how you brought along, what's that kid's name? That guy's name, Carcino. You know what I'm saying? Like, I watch him from time to time. I was never, like, let's say, the biggest fan of him, but I know who he is and what he does. He was the first person to kind of, with some social media clout to kind of jump on your wagon there, and and you respected that and appreciated it, and I fuck with that. That's good by you. You know what I'm saying? So, but Steven don't even really be answering Kwame anymore. But hey, maybe his people told him not to. But like I said, man, chill out with him. End it somehow. You know what I'm saying? You've said your piece about him. Now end it. He said his piece years ago. You said yours now. You're changing your narrative. Let's bring it to an end at this point, Kwame. All right? And then last but not least, a motherfucker who I can't stand. Gilbert Arenas. I don't know Gilbert Arenas personally. He's never done anything to me. But, dude, recently, I guess last night or today, he said something like, Jokic is the worst MVP ever to win the NBA MVP in NBA history or whatever. And see, the reason I don't like Gilbert Arenas is because every time he talks, he makes it seem like every other hooper was garbage except him. That's why I stopped fucking with Barnes and Jackson way before Kwame started really kind of getting at him. Stop rocking with him as much because, that was their whole shit. Like, we the realest ones, we were just too real for the league. No, Barnes, the only highlight is fake hitting the ball at Kobe. Now, Jackson, yeah, I think he played on some decent teams, but, you think he was finna be the star of the Spurs over Tim Duncan? Tim Duncan is a all-time player, all-time talent. Power forward, the unquestionable power forward on the starting five, all-time starting five. You know what I'm saying? Like, you ain't finna play over. You ain't, but you know what I'm saying? You ain't gonna share the limelight with him. And he's a, unassuming player and whatnot, at least publicly. I don't know what he was behind closed doors, but, publicly, very affable guy. But Gilbert Arenas, all he does is shits on the 80s, the 90s, and everybody else. It's like, dude, like, you had a shot and blew it. The gun shit, like, that goofy shit you did, I guess the injuries is what got him out, but, like, you had the situation with the guns in the locker room, got brief suspension, then when you come back, you act like you busting off the gun in the team huddle, the team hype huddle. Like, how could you be that tone deaf, brother? You know what I'm saying? And now you, just shits on everybody. It's like, man, you dude. Nobody's going to sit up here and tell and believe that Jokic is garbage. This dude bringing the ball up, wicking threes and shit. Like, we can see that this dude can play. I don't care what the generation is. Not saying he's Kareem. Not saying he could beat. I'm not saying he bust Shaq. Not saying he bust Wilt, Kareem. None of them dudes. But the guy can play. As far as this current iteration of the NBA, he's as good as anybody. He's a top 3 player. He should be winning MVPs. Now, he's going to stop winning MVPs here in about a year or two once Wemby gets some damn help. That boy's going to get a triple. He's going to get a quintuple double on y'all ass one day. Points, rebounds, assists, blocks, and steals. Watch. He's going to get the first quintuple double on your ass. That boy's incredible. But for right now, it's Jokic. You know, Embiid does the same thing. Brings it up, shoots the 3. You know, good post game. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, Arenas like, you know, we respect it. You can shoot a little bit. You know, you was a good scorer. You know what I'm saying? Never seen any, thing defensively about you. But we just know you basically, T-Mac, who was Dominique. We know you can score. What else? We didn't get to see it from you because you were out the league. So, you're just kind of angry at this point. And all you do is, talk about the chaos of the NBA. Adults don't care for the chaos. The younger cats do. The younger generation, maybe that's who you're speaking to. The adults, we don't really care, man. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I'm not trying to diss anybody. Nobody's perfect. None of that shit. But I'm just saying, bruh. You know what I'm saying? I mean, a guy I know who had a cup of coffee in the NBA, he said it, earlier today, man, not everybody deserves a podcast. Talking about Gil Arenas. You know what I'm saying? But I digress. I'm going to hop off of here. I don't know what the score is with that game. But, you know what I'm saying? I'll be back in the morning with more action for you, all right? But until then, everybody, have a safe day, night, whatever. And I'll holler back at you soon. Be well. Peace.